Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Here we go. Your dial set correctly to USA Prepares. Thank you for being in class with us today. Jason is engineering the broadcast in Minnesota. I'm Vincent Finelli. If you'd like to call us, we'll pay for the call. 866-582-9933. 866-582-9933. I'm Vincent Finelli, and it is the distinct pleasure of the management to present to you today's star attraction. At the front of the broadcast classroom, he's back after his exclusive multi-week tour of Europe, Scandinavia, and the subcontinent. Won't you welcome from Grants Pass, Oregon, the one, the only, the brilliant, the polymath, the metaphysicist, the author, the teacher, the captain of the lifeboat, the enthusiastic, and the tangentially eccentric Dr. Richard Allen Miller.
How do I respond to he's back? They're here. I don't know, man. Hi.
My favorite part of that introduction was, and the tangentially eccentric.
Yeah, really.
Dr. Richard.
Have I got a ring? And it's wobbly. The wobbles. You know, I have to tell you that I haven't got a clue what's going on, but I can tell you what I do know, and it's not good. I mean, I have no idea what this all means. Everything. The media, especially. The media is no longer real. And that includes me. All of it. There's so much. Oh, did I mention that I'm deep fake? What does that mean?
Well, you know, Rick, you've been saying for years, I'm talking probably darn close to 8 years now, that it's all fake. And, you know, the first time people heard that, they're probably thinking, what's he talking about? What's fake? And now we're figuring out that it's all fake. We do not.
Now, wait a
Dr.
minute.
Shealy.
There's a point here. I wanted to say something. This is an important concept, like space and time. Everybody believes that space is real. Space is not real. Like time, it's a duration of, it's a construct. Now, what does that mean literally? It means that you and I were given choice. And choice is arbitrary. And the fact that you and I might have differing views from a physics point of view, that's as close as it gets to less than halfway to God. That means that is God at war with something? Probably not. Not even conceptually like that, because conflict is a construct that is limited, like space. That's where the flat earthers came in. The idea of assumed truths before you even begin to make measurements and laws, you're presuming that space is real. Is the shortest distance between 2 points a straight line, or is space curved? Now, just that alone changes everything. Assumed truth. And your assumed truth might be quite different than mine, and so what happens next is we're in disagreement. But that diversity is what made us God's favored choice. And I'm going to put it right back to Christians and Buddhists and the whole 9 yards of saying that's one of the reasons why you have two brains. Because It isn't worked this way or that way, and everybody is presuming that physics has got the answer, and the guys are saying, yeah, and at some point we'll have a theory of everything, a big toe. Yeah, no. It doesn't work like that. Because just because I disagree with you does not mean that either of us is wrong. How does that work?
Well, except for the flat Earth people, because all you have to do. All you have to.
I can, with tensor math, simple math, prove that the Earth's flat. If I presume that space is curved, I can do that. Now, I think
I can prove that it's not.
Space is not real, and to have
Rick, I can prove that the Earth is not flat. All you have to do is invite a 3-year-old over to your kitchen table and watch him spill that glass of water. Okay?
But
it runs right off the edge. It runs right off the edge.
There it is, just like that. That has to do with correlation. See, we have made space, okay, was time real? Those are the two measurements you use to do everything. And that's why we came out with a holographic concept, because we realized that time and space are constructs and are the limitation of man. Now, there's an orca that has the ability to go to 9/10 of the biosphere, whereas man is limited to only 1/10. Who's superior? There it is.
I was just thinking.
And the fact is, I used to think that the dolphin had a language. Oh, it's really more complex than Hebrew. It blah, 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 blah. I was wrong. You know why? Because they're not speaking. They're sending holograms. Now, that's 1,000 words. And that just was discovered. And who's superior, man or dolphin? Now, I have to say something here. I am beginning to recognize my own limitations, even if I think I'm really bright and all of that. I know for a fact that my ideas are at some point going to be outdated and not work. I've already seen it in my life. So why would man say God's in conflict? That didn't, by the way, Satan didn't even occur in historical measurements until the Church of Rome. And newsflash, I'm going to guess that's the last pope. And like they predicted in the Bibles, various Bibles, which, newsflash, were their sciences back then, like the Greek. Their sciences dealt with archetypes and stories in the big city kind of thing that we don't understand because we don't look at things that way. And looking at something a certain way is what made us God's favorite. And the fact that you're quite different than me. And once you get that, how can you make judgment on another? Oh, simple. The reason you're doing that is because you're insecure and you want to validate the fact that you're right and they're wrong. And it doesn't work like that. That only works for humans. It doesn't work for gods. God's not at war with anything in my universe. Further, anything I could possibly imagine as God and capable of what God can do, that's only halfway to God, and probably what I personally am capable of doing in this lifetime if I were to actually utilize all my skills, which I don't. So to believe and think opinions are important, yes and no. What is important is when you look at a flat earth, these realities are available to you. And when you look at the earth as round, those realities. But guess what? Astrology became astronomy. And astronomy is eventually going to morph into cosmobiology, what you call biorhythms and the movement of planets and how they affect the consciousness of man on Earth. And the most common one that we're familiar with is the lunar sex cycle of the female, that at the moment of birth, a timetable like biorhythm is locked into her gene on when she ovulates. And if she moves, the phase of the moon, and if she moves to a different part of the earth, that ovulation cycle changes. How does that work? Oh, well, it has to do with gravity and water and cell salts and migration in the cell, da-da-da-da. Yeah, well, that might be true, except the one I did back in the 70s had to do with the planet Uranus, the Earth, and the Sun. And when they are in a specific geometric alignment, there's a free sigma. That means a 99.99975% probability of an event, earthquake event on the Earth. Now, there are no known laws on how the Uranus could possibly affect. And so people like suspicious observers, whom I key off of, talks in terms of it's all about the sun and sunspots and, cycles of the sun. Well, yes and no, that's today. But tomorrow, we're going to probably go back to looking at astronomy as not being real, because space is actually not real. It's a construct in the way we look at things, and is, in fact, our limitation. And once you get that concept as a possibility, now you're starting to understand what God meant when we became his favored, and the possibilities of what man may be able to achieve once we move away from the concepts of fear. I have made a discovery that the laws of physics change with various altered states of consciousness. That's what I am now mapping for government. I have a Schedule 1 with Canada, growing psychedelic mushrooms for Canada and the state of Israel for further research, because of my own breakthroughs that I'm now beginning to understand. We have always, politically correct, felt that altered states of consciousness were to be feared. We're wrong. They're tools in a toolbox. And I watched a woman rip a car door off to save her child. Now, that's not possible. There's no way that her body and bone and muscle and griddle can be stronger than steel. And yet there it is. Oh, well, that's adrenaline. Oh, really? How's adrenaline make the bone stronger than steel? Now, I'm going to say something. Our conceptuals on these things are so limited, we really have no clue at all what's going on here. We just presume and think we're right. And the Christians are the worst hypocrites, because that was the first teaching of Christ. Do not make judgment on another. Judge yourself, absolutely. But to judge someone else because they're different than you? And now I'd like to go to other topics, because that's an important concept that everybody needs to at least think about before you start to make a judgment on something. Recognize your limitation of understanding what's actually going on.
We'll be right back with Ricky Rocket. Class, regarding Dr. Richard Allen Miller's presentation on time not being real, I just want to say you ought to get a copy of this broadcast and put it on an MP3 device, so you can pull it out when your boss says, "You're late for work." And you can say, "Well, no." No, I'm not late for work.
I love it.
Wait, I'm not late for work. Time's not.
Are you late there too, or what? Oh, man. Oh, yeah.
So, well, here's the rest of it. So you can say, "No, I'm not. Time's not real. Actually, today's not Monday. Today's Friday, and you're late with my paycheck."
I got a raise.
Me too.
The guy understood where I was coming from and gave me the margin to allow me to be eccentric. Remember, you used that term a little earlier. Wobble, I believe
I
we
did.
called it.
Well, I said you're tangentially eccentric,
I'm
like right on the edge.
Yeah, I'm doing it with tangential in person.
Rick, you also mentioned altered states of consciousness, and I am deeply concerned about altered states of consciousness, especially regarding Joe Biden, because he's in a permanent.
You mean the way he likes to pet butts?
Well, and
no.
there's a okay, class. Here it is. When you think about how society is devolving, you can just go to a search engine. You can type in Joe Biden, okay, 2 words. Then you can type in little girl, and you can type in crotch, and you'll see a video.
Yeah,
you'll see a video of Joe Biden, standing on camera with several people and this little girl, and he grabs her hand and he rubs her hand on his crotch. Now that's presidential material.
Well, here we go. The problem is none of them are qualified. None. Trump, all of them. I don't vote for Trump. I vote against Clinton. Now, I met Clinton because I was asked to be, never mind. It's a long story on Spotted Owl. And now I'd like to talk about logging, because what's happening in Oregon right now is a crime beyond anything. I helped Paul Newman. I helped him write Spotted Owl video. I was in that video. I am listed in that video. I helped him put that thing together. And now, because of what's going on politically in the world, not the earth is different than the world, there's going to be opening Spotted Owl. And a neighbor that just bought the property below me bought property all around me, surrounding me. He didn't buy just the piece down below me. He bought the piece over there. He bought the piece over there, and over there, and he has surrounded me and set up a log mill. Why? They can't take me this way. They're going to take me that way. And I'm thinking of moving to Alaska. I called Nick Bigot, and he said, chick alone. He's got a copper mine there. How'd you like to live underground? And I don't want to move. I love this place. And yet, what's happened is the congressman in Oregon, because of the economic depression, have tried to do relief by opening up BLM and Spotted Owl logging. And guess who benefits? The wealthy older families of Oregon have gone in like starving artists and grabbed anything and everything they can. In 1 month, half of the Applegate watershed is gone. In 1 month. Now, we're talking 37,000 acres. That happened. And I'm watching it happen. And the congressmen are saying, well, we're trying to give economic relief. And it didn't affect me, except visually, and what's happening to our environment. And then I raised my hand and said, Miss Vesapoli, I have to go to the bathroom. Can I? And what I wanted to say is that I wrote a book that's unpublished with Chuck Walters, Acres USA, and it was called Hemp as a Virgin White Paper. And right now, what they're doing in Oregon is down on the Columbia River, they're farming cottonwood and using the old heli loggers to coppice the top 10 feet for paper every year. And
hold that thought. We'll be right back. Ricky Rocket's back with us, and class, Rick's been talking about the spotted owl, and just an exclamation point here. So the spotted owl likes to live in western North America, and it nests really high up, between, let's say, 40 and 120 feet up in the air, okay? Maybe even close to 200. And they don't have a lot of eggs, so they don't make a lot of babies. And here's the problem. When people talk about, you're just trying to protect the spotted owl, that's ridiculous. It's not just the spotted owl. It's everything in the food chain, including and beyond the spotted owl, including us. So when these loggers destroy the forests, they're destroying the habitat for the spotted owl and everything else. And it's happening all over the world. So when people just say, oh, but you're a tree hugger. Yeah, that's right. Because without trees, without vegetation, we're dead. It's as simple as that. Tell me if I'm wrong, Rick.
Well, your tree can be likened to the lungs of Gaia and what she breathes, like the soil is your mycorrhiza or the gut of Gaia. And it's just a way of looking at space and time as a metaphor. It doesn't mean it's correct. It's a way of seeing things. And when you clear cut, that was one of the things Paul did in his Spotted Owl documentary. He panned into a forest, this pristine forest, and as we panned upward and upward, we saw a tree farm. And a tree farm is not a forest because of the debris and the life that you find in a forest floor that does not exist when you replant. Now, forest fires and aside, the argument was, well, we have to clear the debris for fear of forest fires. That's absolutely correct. And there's nothing wrong with that aspect of it, except that God did it naturally with normal forest fires and seasonal changes. And some years are drought, and some years are not. And oh, guess what? The seasons are changing, as are the continents. And that's why you had, the Moroccans were, nomads as opposed to domestication, like the Clovis and other kinds of Indian tribes that started farming in cave dwellers. Now, I, can run it down to you in terms of the way you choose to look at something, opens certain doors and it closes others. And that's why we have different schools of thought. I'm watching one right now that just got released on my computer, even though I didn't want it. It's a new school of blending all these different religions like Theosophy did when I was a kid. The Theosophical Society was not a religious thing, but it tried to blend Upanishads with Christianity and others with, sacred teachings of all ages. What was that called? Manly Palmer Hall. Thank you. Yes, that concept we're now reinventing with these new religions where they got the stringy old men that are wearing dirty T-shirts and talking about the new religions, interviewed by the hot copy of these new online schools. Now, astrology is valid because it has something to do with space and the relationship of planetary energies moving celestially around the Earth. Oh, is the Earth the center of the universe? Yeah, it is for me, right? Everything revolves around me. No, that is called, what do they call that? Narcissism. You have choice in terms of how you choose to see something, and it is important to realize your limitation in being able to conceptualize. And so you invent things like space and time, but they're not necessarily real, and that's where sciences are going. Just like consciousness and lucid being where you are right now, this is a dream state. You're dreaming. You're not seeing reality, you're filtering it. And there are dream states like lucid dreaming that actually have more content to reality, which, by the way, Castaneda defined is that which cannot be known. And the most simplest way I do that is when I say, what color is that fence over there? And we both look and see it's brown. We've just made an assumption that the other side of the fence that you can't say is the same color. And that brown for you is brown for me. And I can list all kinds of assumptions going right on down the list that make science limited. And limited science means, in one sense, you can't get there from here. Like Simon saying you can only go halfway to the door, and you focus on the door, and you've missed the journey because you'll never get to the door with those protocols. By definition, that's what second happens. Definitions. After assumed truths, you start to define what space is and what it is not. And that changes also. And so what I'm trying to say is that when you realize that level of, what is that, philosophy? Yeah, that's a good place where Plato and others have started. You start to understand that that's maybe why you were given two brains, not one. And
let's go back. Let's go back for a second or a couple minutes to logging the spotted owl. I just want to connect. I just want to connect a couple dots. So when we lived in Virginia, we had a farm.
The mechanical part of you going into how to set your carburetor, right?
Yeah. Since you mentioned cars, yeah.
I just want everybody to be clear.
Yeah. Okay. So we lived in Virginia. My parents and my family had adjoining farms. So there was a barbed wire fence that separated their pastures from ours. And our house was built in the woods.
Was
so it was
that
surrounded
or House? H-O-U-S, sorry, German.
Our house, was built in the woods, and was surrounded probably 95% by woods. And there was a little tail where you could kind of drive in the driveway, but everything else was woods completely. And my parents' house was at roughly the same elevation, within a couple feet, and it was in a clearing. No woods for, let's say, 1,000 feet. Their house, if you went there, you would be wind burned because of the clear cutting that had happened all around Virginia. So all these trees were cut down, and my mom wanted to name her farm High Winds. Right next door, our farm, 700 feet away, well, maybe 1,000 feet away. No wind. And no wind burn. Now what I'm saying is, so when people clear cut and they wipe down these trees, one of the results is higher winds. Okay. More damage, more stuff flying through the air, more dust.
Exposure.
Absolutely. Higher heating bills, etc. Right. Now, that's in Virginia, and that happened in the 1990s. So now in the corrupt state of Missouri, we're talking about the underbrush and how logging, will eliminate some of that underbrush. Well, in the corrupt state of Missouri, what they do is they set it on fire. So the state or the county or the government sets the forest on fire, and they burn down all this underbrush, this undergrowth, the leaves, etc. And it kills the microorganisms, the insects, the worms, the mice, the rabbits, the deer, and everything else that's in these forests. They just get set on fire, executed, burned alive. That's what the state does. And people go, yeah, well, we have to do that. No, they don't have to do it. And I can prove it because I don't do that. I don't set our forest on fire. Now, you've been to our farm and you've seen the woods all around us.
You have stacks of things that you've cleared the brush into piles.
Well, we don't even have to do that. It's easier than that. All you have to do is let some cows loose, and they will walk through the woods and they will trample the underbrush. They'll trample it down. Okay?
Turning everything into clay pan?
Well, no. Turning it into flat compost piles. They poop, they pee. They enhance the microbiome. Now, if you had some goats and they would eat a little higher up, they would eat the sticker bushes. And if you had some sheep, they would eat a little lower. So, goats, sheep, and cows would do the whole thing. And you wouldn't have to set the forest on fire, and you wouldn't have to cut it down. And it would be great for everybody, including the insects and the microbiome and the microorganisms.
That's right.
That's all we have to do. And now I didn't think this wasn't my thought. I didn't originate this. I think God did this. I think he said, I'm going to give you everything you need. Some of it you're going to have to figure out. And we forgot that he told us this. We forgot that he showed us how to do this. So what do? We destroy the planet.
Well, that's not quite true. What's going to happen is God will localize the infection. That's what an epoch is about, right? No, that's an alien that does that. No, wait, that's the Nibiru. Wait, no, it's everybody's got a different way of seeing what's going on. And that part is what made us God's favored. And to have choice and to be able to disseminate why you want to do something this way over that. And that is where personal growth occurs, because it changes for me. I remember when I was into 2,4-D, I was into Roundup. Roundup was the only way I could put a crop in and make it happen over grass, native grasses that would take over and grow too quickly. However, now that as itself, Roundup was not bad. But what they did then is, then let's put it inside the gene. So it's always present. It doesn't break down after 10 days. That's where Roundup went from being nothing wrong with it to it's a serious problem in terms of GMOs now. And, that's what they're going to do to us. And if you don't believe that, let me say it this way. Anything you could possibly imagine that happened at 9/11 is true and even more. And my exhibit that is the Pentagon and why nobody is talking about what actually happened at the Pentagon during 9/11. Because everybody focused on 9/11 and the Pentagon, with their plausible deniability, is at war with itself. And they took out a certain floor because it had damaging information. And that's a fact. The plane didn't hit the Pentagon. How come people aren't doing a serious investigation on how Kennedy actually died?
Hold that thought. Dr. Richard Allen Miller is with us, richardallenmiller.com, richardalanmiller.com. Rick, since you mentioned the Pentagon, before the Pentagon, we never lost a war. Since the Pentagon, we never won a war. The Pentagon has 6.5 million square feet of office space. It is the largest office building in the world. And it has 17.5 miles of corridors. Okay, that's the Pentagon.
That's just the front door.
Yeah.
That's not the reality of underground bunkers and other aspects that they have in other locations.
Right. It's huge. I mean, it is a huge.
Why is that?
Huge.
Why is that? War is good? Yeah.
Obviously it's good. We keep doing it. We keep beating up little countries all over the world.
That's what brought the economy back during World War II. Hoorah. But fear is the first enemy of man. And if you think, now, everybody's concerned about my opinion, and I have something really important to say about this virus. It's real. It was weaponized. It was weaponized so that it would not just attack one part of the body, but had options of attacking any part of the body. And when I said that was where there's a termination on how they spindle the DNA so that a virus normally hits respiratory, this one will hit your kidney, this one will hit your gut, this one will hit your heart. Predicated on if it's weak or not. Somebody that has had a lot of pneumonia, like more than 3 times, has some lung damage, and they're at risk. A normal human being, this is just normal flu season. But this one is a little broader because it doesn't hit just one thing, immunization. They're not going to say immunization is required. They're simply going to say if you don't get immunized, you can't travel. Heads up. This is a global situation like 9/11 to take advantage of your fear to set up and slowly encroach on your natural and civil rights. And when I say that, if you don't think that's bad, what they're going to do, most likely, as a scenario, this is me not knowing anything, and I'm going to say to you, what they're going to do is when a group of, let's say, disc malcontents like Sturgis, okay, here we've got a bunch of bikers that are giving the finger to the United States by having their road rally, and there's no virus problem. Probably because they're all healthy. And it's a normal flow. However, what's going to happen next, because what's really probably happening right now is a bunch of Chinese have infiltrated America and are spotly releasing this virus as it is to different places to keep the schools down and our educational process from an educational system. And what happens next is they're going to have a second virus, and that one's going to take out all the disbelievers that have given their finger to the government about having to wear masks and things like that, and it is going to be a second weapon that's deployed to make this one world government and take out the thinkers of America or the thinkers of the world. Now, I don't know that that's going to happen any more than I know what really happened at the Pentagon, except that I happen to have worked at the Pentagon, and I watched ordnance being transferred from one floor to the other because of get-out-of-jail cards and no accountability in certain black ops situations. And if you don't believe that, there's a movie on Netflix that's called Iris. It's Korean. It's extremely well done and gives you another insight, just like Designated Survivor. Now, I'm going to tell you what. Once you see it in your mind's eye, the earth being flat, the earth being round, that's what makes it real. It has nothing to do with physics or religion. It's the ability to have choice. And with that comes a responsibility. Because man, this is my theorem now in magic, man has a responsibility for the thoughts he chooses to entertain. And if you don't think there's not a war going on out there in front of you right now on an individual one-on-one, just check out your media shortly and see why CNN is doing it this way and Fox does it that way. And there's your war.
So, Rick, it sounds like what we're talking about is that the disbelievers will become the super spreaders of COVID-20.
That's correct. That will happen because they're manipulating this with false figures on purpose so that you now start the whole COVID thing. I have a friend who's a nurse. She was in Afghanistan, and then she went to
Hold that
New
thought.
York City.
Hold that thought. Let's go to that when we come back. Dr. Richard Allen Millers. Everyone all set? Cocked, locked. Hour number 2 of USA Prepares. Just a quick announcement. Tomorrow, Bert is going to be joining us, and we're going to be talking about the Carrington event and the similarities to a spikes and surges on the grid and what you can do for yourself to protect yourself against those anomalies, abnormalities in the electrical power system that everyone depends on. So that will be tomorrow. And also Marty Barrett is she's a biologist. I've known her for decades, and she's going to talk about firsthand experience with students who have contracted COVID-19. At the top of the hour news, we just heard, Vice President Mike Pence just popped up and used the word kids. I despise the use of the word kids. Those are baby goats. I think he might have been referring to children, humans, but he used the word kids. I don't know. In the world, there are about 251 recognized countries and territories. 213 of them have confirmed cases of COVID-19. It's 85%. Just wanted to mention that. So if you're wondering where it is, it's almost everywhere. Dr. Richard Allen Miller's with us, richardallenmiller.com, Richard, A-L-A-N, Miller.com. And, Rick, you were mentioning you know of a nurse, and then we went into a commercial break. Please continue.
This nurse was in Afghanistan as a soldier. She acted as a nurse, worked in Afghanistan hospitals, and then when she left the military, came to New York and worked as a nurse in New York City and saw what was happening literally and did an interview with her cohort nurses, doctors she worked with, and took pictures. And 90% of the data that is being published by media is false. The virus is real, but they're taking senior citizens that do not test positive, they're negative, and they're stating that they're positive. They will take, if you go to the hospital in New York, they'll make sure you get the virus if you're over a certain age by putting you in as being observed to test for positive. Why? Well, one reason is they're paid $27,000 for every positive case that they find, and they're paid more if that person dies of it. Now, what's that going on? So at some point, a more intelligent person starts seeing this in different locations, including their own, and at some point start to disbelieve what's going on and react negatively, which is not appropriate either, because that has been staged with intent to make you believe the virus isn't as dangerous as it appears, which, by the way, it isn't. But you can count on one being released, because if you don't think Wuhan and Soros that owns that, not Bill Gates. Gates funded Soros. Soros is the one you want to be focused on. Check him out on the internet and who he is in terms of already stating that in order to have a one-world government, there are too many people to control. That's creepy.
So
That's creepy.
We have
it goes downhill from there, because guess what? The figures that are being presented are so incorrect, on purpose, with intent and money, that many of you that are intelligent, looking for alternatives, will disbelieve and not use your mask, which is fine right now, but you can count on the fact they've already got a vaccine. Russia's started deploying it. If you don't think they don't have a second virus to go out there and whack off all of you that give the virus the finger, let me say this. You're being set up, and you need to keep your eyes open, because the whole thing is not real. None of it. The virus itself is real. The pandemic aspect is not to get you to drop your guard. And when you drop your guard, that's how they reduce. The second, by the way, shoe that's going to drop is the one they're threatening now with immunization and your retirement check to seniors, because they don't want old people that have a good education thinking about things, and they're going to summarily take a whole group of bikers out at Sergis, just like that, with a second virus. And you can believe that if that isn't true, something very similar probably is. And you can presume that, just like the Pentagon, Kennedy, and 9/11. If you ask what's going on, The correct answer is yes, all of the above. Anything you can imagine is happening right now, and worse.
Okay, so, all right. So, Rick, why have we not responded to the communist Chinese as the destroyers of humanity, the destroyers of the economies around the world, the destroyers of productivity?
And everything that you use in your home right now that doesn't work anymore? Yeah. We have been attacked across the board in areas and ways none of us realize until now it's too late. National debt, everything in your home. I would say 70% of what's in your home, and you're a disseminator, is probably from China. And that's why it doesn't work.
Rick, I couldn't.
Like a splitter I might get at Walmart. No, I don't want to get it from Walmart. I'll get it from Weimar. No, wait, I'll get it from Fred Meyer. No, wait, I'll get it from an old hardware store that I used to trust and believe in. And I've got the choices here of one for $27 or one for $9. Which one am I going to get? They look like they're made the same way.
Rick, it's worse than that.
Yeah,
yes, I am a dissenter. The Chi-Coms lie, cheat, steal, obfuscate.
Probably, if you're not careful.
Let me just share with this little exclamation point with the class. The Chi-Coms produced sheetrock, wallboard, if you want to call it, and they used industrial waste in the wallboard. And it was shipped to the United States. It was sold by Lowe's said, "Oh no, we didn't do it. No, we didn't sell that stuff." Not true. Lowe's sold it. A bunch of stores sold it. It was used in the construction of stick-built homes and fabricated homes. It's all over the United States, and it is toxic. It is so corrosive that if you want to know if you have this class, it's real simple. Take off that outlet cover or that switch plate. Now make sure you don't electrocute yourself, okay? And you look at the bare copper wire in there. If it's corroded black, you probably have Chinese sheetrock in your walls, and it's corroding your lungs. Now, that's who these guys are. They make substandard products. Yep. I went to, you gotta give me a minute, Rick. I'm pretty frosted. Well, just hang on. I went to, not at you. I'm frosted with these greedy business people. I went to Sam's Club and I thought, how come they don't sell appliances anymore? Well, I clicked appliances. They sell them, and they're all from either Samsung or LG. I don't see anything that says any other brand other than the Asian imported appliances. That's Sam's Club. So these guys, you are thinking, are selecting the best products available for their membership, who pay to become part of this store. We pay to become part of it because we think they're going to treat us right, and they don't. They lie. Sam's Club lies. How do they lie? They say, if you pay $100 for your membership, you'll get free shipping. Well, that's not always true. They have two prices, and I'll prove it to you. You go to Sam's Club and you type in spaghetti, and you look up Berea spaghetti, and you'll see that there's one price for in the store, and there's another price that's much higher as a percentage if you have it shipped. So the free shipping that Sam's Club says they have is a lie. Okay? And they are supporting the Asian manufacturing industry for appliances. What's wrong with supporting America? If you could hook up Sam Walton to an axle and hook that up to a gear, you could generate electricity with the speed that his body is turning over in his grave.
I love it. I don't like it. What's happening is that we're dropping our real guard because we're distracted with media. And I'm basically like nuclear power plants. What would happen if you turn the switch off on your computer?
I do. Rick, I do. And that was one of the things I wanted to talk about.
I know you watch it. I know you understand what I'm trying to say. It's not possible, per se, because of the way it has creeped into every moment of our lives. By the way, just a tangent quickly, I have 4 red-headed woodpeckers. 2 of them are the male and female and the 2 babies. And guess what? The male and female feed each other. They kiss each other by passing seed from one to the other as a gesture of love. That's why I love red-headed woodpeckers.
Well, love is...
Julie wanted to know what happened to our squirrel. She thought it got hit by a predator. No, what it did is it found the orchard and is going after the fruit right now because it came and visited me yesterday just to let me know it was still alive.
Love is giving your wife, your spouse, your husband that bigger piece of chicken. The choicest one on the serving plate. That's love. That's
right. You always are trying to do the right thing, and it's different for each of us, and we're not wrong in our values. That's why we have the different religions, because religions are not absolutes. What they are is a place to seek fellowship in reinforcing a value you find important to you, like Christianity over Muslim. But Muslims, real Muslims, are way more devoted and are less hypocritical. What they do is because they have that strength in their religion, there also has the aberrance that comes with it, just like Christianity.
So, class, here's something really simple you can do. If you decide that you're going to be out and about in the stores, I'm talking about the big stores, ask for the manager and say, how come you don't sell American manufactured appliances? How come you're selling tires from China? How come you don't have pots and pans made in America? How come your shoes are from China? How come your clothes are from Asia? What's wrong with you? Rick, I've got just a quick comment and a question. I know you've got some other things that you'd like to discuss. I've said publicly that it's my belief that the Second American Civil War and the Second American Revolution have already started, and they will continue to get worse. In that light, I suggest that you get whatever tools you need for your own survival and your family's protection. I've said for months now, got 22s, been trying to tell you politely, get your ammunition, get your firearms. Okay? Now, if you want to get 22 ammunition, it's over 10 cents a shot. It used to be 6 months ago, 4 cents a shot. Rick?
I need to say there are 2 other topics I was hoping to cover. We won't, but I'm going to mention them right now. The first is racism. I grew up in Seattle, and the Central District, CD, was where everyone poor lived, and that was Garfield High School and where Jimi Hendrix came out of. And in Seattle, until just recently, there was no such thing as racism. And Portland is not about that black that was killed anymore. And I've got absolute evidence, including Chicago, Minneapolis, and the rest of it. And the other thing I wanted to say is, because America has a lot of problems, there's a movement to get rid of it. And you don't get rid of something that is possibly the best thing that ever happened in world government in recorded history is the American concepts of the Constitution and the way we live. And while it's flawed, you don't get rid of something, you fix it. You don't get rid of it. And why the different Democratic and Republican parties are doing what they're doing now, I am no longer either. I will not play this thing. When Pelosi, for example, disrespects Trump while he's giving a national address, that's what I call political incorrectness, not kneeling at a football game and getting booed. Now, I have to say, the overreaction of everything is polarizing and fragmenting America, which, newsflash, is what the media, controlled by moguls, Soros, etc., and world domination for a one-world government. The reason that Russia is thriving right now, while Putin is a criminal, a KGB, etc., he's also the single most important leader in their world history, and his nationalism, and they do have Anastasia, which is different than Matt Stein and I doing our so-called sustainable lifeboats. And I always want everybody to remember it was Edgar Cayce that said it will be the bear that saves America. Now, I don't have a clue what that all means. What I do know is I'm watching even myself trying to take sides, and that in itself is probably not appropriate if I truly want to maintain the values I believe in, hold strongly. Just because something's flawed does not mean you get rid of it. You fix it. And that is another concept in marketing. I used to buy a television, and if it didn't work, you went and fixed it. You didn't get rid of it to buy another one like you do a computer today. How come? Because they're designed to fail. And that was the concept of a DeLorean. Now, I'm down to the grind. I need support on levels you can't even imagine, because I am being taken out methodically because of my airing these voices. And the only reason I'm on the air right now, the only reason, is because I need to sell my books. If I didn't have to do that, I would have walked away and been a quiet Amish character or a Quaker up on top of a mountain, living a very simple life, like Vincent does.
All right, hold that thought. We'll be right back. Dr. Richard Allen Miller is with us, richardallenmiller.com, Richard, A-L-A-N, Miller.com, if you'd like to go to his website and purchase his books. Rick, Americans are concerned. They don't want to go to work. They don't want to go to school. They don't want to go to stores. They don't want to go to the hospitals, the dentist. They don't want to take cash. They don't want to touch cash. They don't believe politicians. They don't believe the media. They distrust their neighbors. We are ripe for the taking. Any comments?
Well, I am going to quote something from Grace Thorne's website, a friend of mine that is now acting as a Red Queen or bodyguard. Whenever anybody wants to work with me, before I'm even allowing to open my door or even get friendly, they have to go through a gauntlet now because I'm way too trusting. On her website, she posted this thing, quote, "When a president holding a Bible makes you angry, but a person setting fire to a church doesn't, then it might be time to look at what feeds your soul." Now, I'm going to say some things here. Portland is not real. And I have personal friends, not, from the police or others, that took pictures showing people in uniform, military, changing costume in a car to be the ones that loot and riot and destroy in crowds that were otherwise peaceful protests. And the governor of my state, my daughter works directly for her, right under her. She's controller for the state and has worked under several governors. And they're all corrupt and have agendas. And to have complete disregard because the Democratic Party is going to absolutely lose. There's absolutely no way that Biden and his selection for vice president is going to fly. They are now, how can any political party condone riots that destroy businesses when businesses are already being under attack from global bullshit. And when I say that, I mean literally, none of this is real. The Wuhan virus did not escape. And if it did, why was it made in the first place? And why would Soros be running that whole thing with people like the Microsoft guy that would underwrite that kind of thing? What is going on? And what is this thing? I was in Mexico. When I went to Mexico, I had never seen 60 square miles of slum. That was Mexico City. And when I got to Puebla, I was in a gated community. The home I was in was over a $4 million home, gated in terms of the disparity between the local citizens that live there and the privileged. I've never seen that before. I've been to Mexico. I used to go to Mazatlan and places of that nature where I would look at churches and so on, but I never actually experienced it until I was a keynote speaker at a major symposium. Had, several thousand people attend. It was a big deal. But the distinction between the privileged and the normal was unbelievable. And that's where America is going. And I'm Exhibit A. They have summarily, methodically taken me out. And right now, I absolutely recognize Gmail and Yahoo algorithms filtering my mail. I can't send anything to anybody with a Yahoo mail address anymore. And the criminal that came into my home moved me to Gmail, which I abhor just as bad because both of them filter mail. When I send something to you, Vincent, it would take, when it goes ping on my side, you'd have it within, 10 seconds. Now it can be up to an hour. How does that work? Is the internet that full and busy? No. It isn't. It's being filtered. And Facebook and YouTube are why I am now no longer doing live classes, and I'm going to be starting up again class 3, which I should have done back in May. Why? At every orifice I'm encountering something that doesn't work. And I'm getting false reports, like I'll send something to somebody and it will say it went, and then 3 hours later I'll get it didn't go after all. And yes, they got it, or no, they didn't get it. Which one is it? And when you realize that that's happening to me, those are algorithms. Because I did the first one with Project Terafile in 1974 at Claremont. And I see how it has evolved and how it has entered into every single one's life, including radio, which is now not instantaneous anymore, with Radio Free America. Everything has delay in it now. Why is that?
I'll tell you why it has a delay in it. Hold it. Rick, listen to me. I'm furious with you. What's the matter with you? You say BS on my radio broadcast? That's why there's a delay. Have you lost your mind?
No, I haven't lost my mind. I am exactly experiencing what I do. And if it isn't you, then it's, and I'm not saying you, Vincent, I'm not angry. And I'm
furious with you, Rick.
I'm not
I'm furious.
Emotional now. What I'm trying to do is tell you what I'm experiencing, like Mike Maw did.
You don't do that on this broadcast. Do you understand me?
No.
You don't understand? We don't curse on USA Prepares.
We don't?
No, we don't. Jason, Throw him off the air right now, please.
What?
Get rid of Rick Miller right now. Right now. Rick, you're done. I've had it with you.
Okay. Sorry.
Okay. I don't get it. I don't get it. All you had to do was keep it clean. You want to teach children. You want to teach childling.
No, I don't want to teach children. I want to have educational reform.
Rick, stop. Rick, please hang up. Please hang up. Thank you. It's not often I lose my temper. It's not often I lose my temper. But, ladies and gentlemen, class, we have young minds in this class that are reaching to become better. We don't need to use profanity. Using profanity lowers the argument. Using profanity is not necessary. I've been ridiculed by another network because I will not allow profanity to be on the air. I won't allow it. You just heard it. You just heard my visceral reaction. Do you think that if your child were in the public training camp, that you would allow the use of profanity in the classroom by the teacher? Would you allow that? I wouldn't. I don't get it. I really don't get it. I hear broadcasters, I hear people who have been on the air for decades. They slip. They use profanity. You want to know why? Because that's part of their lexicon. That's what they're like in real life. And then they have an alternate persona for public consumption. So we think that they're at one standard, and privately, they're at another standard. If I had a child in the public training camp who was in a class with a teacher who used profanity, or if I were at an assembly and the principal introduced the students to the parents and the grandparents and the aunts and the uncles and the friends and family, etc., and used profanity, I would be livid. That's not the standard that I'm willing to accept. I won't accept it on the air. You just heard the last of Dr. Richard Allen Miller. That was it. Over the years, I've been told we cannot have profanity on the air. We can't have it. That is why some broadcasts have to have a 7-second delay, because people use profanity on the air. They use language that some might call colorful. I'd call it vulgar. I will not tolerate it. If we lose listeners, if we lose students, if we lose instructors who say, "Oh, Vinny, you're just being an old prude." No, I'm not. I am maintaining the standards that I think are required to be in public. I think it is outrageous that politicians use the F word. I think it's outrageous that people in the public use the F word. Actors and actresses. Who do they think they are? Do they think they're impressing us with their limited gutter vocabulary? Anytime a public person uses language, we call it foul language, we can call it vulgar language. Anytime they use that, I discount their IQ. I discount their argument. I discount what they are trying to convince me of. I think that they are less than I thought they were before they used it. I'm sorry it has resulted to this, but I will not let it continue. We were one of the few programs on the radio, one of the very, very few nationally syndicated broadcasts that did not have a delay because we didn't need it. Now we need it. I'm furious. I'm outraged. And I'm angry. It's a good thing we're going into a break. It'll give me time to calm down. But that was the last of Rick Miller. I'm Vincent Finelli. I was hoping it wouldn't come to that. So, I had a long series of discussions over the last couple of months with Rick. And I explained to him that you cannot curse on the air, you cannot curse on the air, you cannot curse on the air. We will be thrown off the air. We have affiliates. There are FCC rules. You can't do it. You can't do it. Okay. And he does it. Frankly, I used to have to remind him before every broadcast, Rick, don't curse, okay? Rick, I'm not kidding. Don't curse, okay? That was the last straw. You heard for the first time what happens when an instructor violates the code of conduct, the code of decency that I demand here at USA Prepares. I'm the headmaster. I demand a code of conduct. I demand the truth. I demand integrity. I demand that no one use profanity on the air. It's getting hard to keep profanity off the air. You just heard something that was really awful. You just heard me fire somebody on the air. You just heard me lose another one of my friends. One of my close friends. You just heard it live. We're done. Now, some of you may say, well, hey, it's just words. And that's not the way I see it. I see it this way. I see it as we have a code of conduct. It's a reasonable code of conduct. And I see that person or persons flaunting that in my face, acting like my thoughts don't matter. And it's not like we have a disagreement. It's a code of conduct. Would you think that it's okay to use profanity to your commanding officer? Now, I'm not saying I'm the commanding officer, but do you think the military allows that? Do you think generals get cursed at? Would you curse at President Donald Trump? Do you think it would be okay? Do you think it's okay to use profanity in the household? How about mom? How about grandmother? How about grandmother using profanity? Is that okay? It's not okay with me. I declined to be the headmaster of Albert Schweitzer University because I had a moral conflict with what it said on the website. It said, to the effect that, we want to be inclusive. So no matter whether you're trans, bi, gay, straight, twisted, untwisted, flexible, inflexible, we love you. I have a problem with that. I have moral problems with that. So I distanced myself from Albert Schweitzer University. Yes, I told you the absolute truth. I am overwhelmed and I am trying to save the farm. That's what I'm trying to do. And for me, saving the farm means saving our house, our home. It just happens to be our business is our home. I don't have time to be engaged in other activities. I just don't. I only have time for my family, the farm, and this broadcast. That's it. I don't have any more time. I don't even have time for that. I was talking to the puppies last night. I was giving them a hug before putting them to bed. And I told them I love them. And I said, I really wish I had more time for you guys. I need to spend more time with you guys. Now, it's not that I don't spend time with them. I spend every moment I can with them and my family and the family business, which is the farm. I'm just limited by 24 hours a day. I'd love to hear what you have to say about what I said. I know I lost my temper. I know I was angry. But I don't apologize for it. Because to me, I was standing up for what's right and what's decent. And if you have any comments, I'd love to hear them. Instructor@USAPrepares.com. INSTRUCTOR@USAPrepares.com. Send them soon. I'd love to hear them. Instructor@USAPrepares.com. But Ricky's not coming back. And that's fine. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about what you can do to protect yourself from electromagnetic pulses and what's happening with the virus. I'm Vincent Finelli. I approve this message.